Let's talk about a disaster that's all too common and, frankly, pretty destructive for any property owner: water damage. Today, we're going to demystify exactly what happens from that first moment water shows up where it shouldn't be, and more importantly, how you can navigate the whole messy aftermath. So, let's dive right in. Okay, picture this. You walk downstairs and your foot splashes into an inch of cold water. Or maybe you glance up and see a dark, ugly stain spreading across your ceiling. Your stomach just drops, right? It's a full-blown crisis, and a clock has just started ticking. So, what actually happens next? All right, the very first thing you have to understand, the absolute number one rule, is that when it comes to water damage, speed is everything. And I'm not talking about days or even hours. We're talking about minutes. Every single minute is absolutely critical. And here's where it gets kinda scary. There's a biological reality at play here. The second that water soaks into stuff like drywall, wood, or your carpets, you are officially in a race. It only takes about 24 to 48 hours for mold to get a foothold and start to grow. And just like that, a water problem has spiraled into a much bigger, much more serious health and structural issue. Okay, so we've established you gotta move fast. But fast against what exactly? Water damage can sneak up on you from a whole bunch of different places, both inside and outside your property. Let's break down the most common culprits. And this is a really crucial point you need to get. Where the water came from and how it got in, that dictates everything that comes next. We're talking about the cost, the method for cleanup, the whole timeline. Yeah, a burst pipe is a whole different beast than a flash flood. So when you look at this list, you can basically see two big troublemakers. On one side, you've got Mother Nature, huge storms that just overwhelm everything. And on the other, you've got failures inside the building itself. Aging pipes, that's the classic nightmare scenario of a pipe bursting at 2 in the morning. And appliance failures, incredibly common. A water heater that decides to give up can dump 40 or 50 gallons of water in just a few minutes. This slide just nails the two different personalities of water damage. You've got the big, loud, sudden disasters that you just can't ignore, but then you have the sneaky ones, the silent destroyers. And here's the crazy part. Those hidden leaks from a bad roof or a tiny crack in the foundation, they often cause way more damage in the long run, just because they go totally unnoticed for weeks or even months, just quietly rotting your home from the inside out. All right, so let's say the worst has happened. Water is everywhere. What does a professional response actually look like? Well, there's a proven industry standard playbook for this, and it's all designed to stop the damage cold and get your property back to normal. Let's walk through it. The whole process really boils down to three main stages. First up is emergency extraction. Think of this as stopping the bleeding. The pros bring in these huge pumps to get all that standing water out fast. The second step, structural drying, is where the real science comes in. This is where they get rid of the moisture you can't see, the water that's been soaked up by your walls and floors. And finally, the part you've been waiting for, full restoration. That's the rebuilding phase, getting everything back to the way it was before. Now, that drying phase, it's not a quick fix. It's not like you just turn on a fan and walk away. On day one, technicians use special moisture meters to literally map out everywhere that's wet, and then they strategically place these super powerful air movers and dehumidifiers. But they're back every single day, checking, tweaking, and monitoring the moisture levels until their instruments say it's bone dry. That usually takes anywhere from 3 to 5 days. So you might be thinking, it's just some big fans and a shop vac, right? Well, not even close. There's a whole science to this, with global standards and everything to make sure the job gets done safely and, actually works. And honestly, that's the huge difference between a pro job and trying to tackle this yourself. And a big name you need to know in that science is the IICRC. Think of them as the organization that writes the official rulebook for the entire restoration industry. So when a company says they're IICRC certified, it's a big deal. It means their people have been trained and tested on these proven, science-backed methods. They know exactly what they're doing. Okay, pay attention because this slide, it might be the most important one of all. The IICRC has 3 categories for water based on how contaminated it is. You've got category 1, that's clean water from, say, a broken water supply line. Then it gets worse. Category 2, gray water, has contaminants. Think of a dishwasher overflow. And then there's category 3, black water. And yeah, it's as bad as it sounds. Sewage, floodwater, stuff you do not want to mess with. This classification changes everything about the cleanup. So, what's the bottom line? All this science stuff, it directly impacts your wallet. It makes sense, right? The higher the water category, the dirtier the water, the more complex and expensive the cleanup is going to be. The longer you wait to make that call, you guessed it, the cost just keeps climbing. And finally, what got wet matters. Porous stuff like drywall and carpet soaks up water like a sponge and usually has to be replaced, which of course drives up the cost.
Phew. Okay. We have gone through a lot: the causes, the process, the science. So let's boil it all down. If you walk away with just a couple of key things from all this, please let it be these.
First up, the money. Just look at that number. That's the average cost of a water damage claim. We're not talking about a small repair bill here. This is a serious financial hit, which is exactly why getting the response right from the get-go is so incredibly important. And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. You're not just paying someone to dry things out, you are paying to prevent those way bigger, way more expensive problems down the road. We're talking about widespread mold, rotting structural beams, things that destroy your property's value. You're paying for safety and peace of mind.
So if this ever happens to you, here's your 4-point action plan. 1. Act immediately. The second you see water, that clock is ticking. 2. Call for professional help. They have tools that can find hidden moisture you'll never see. 3. Document everything. I mean everything. Take pictures, take videos for your insurance company. And 4, a proactive one, understand your insurance policy now. Find out if you're covered for sudden damage versus that gradual, slow leak kind. Don't wait for disaster to find out.
And that really leaves us with one final big question. Getting through a water disaster is a huge relief for sure. But the real win, it's shifting from that reactive panic mode to a proactive prevention mode. The crisis is over, yes, but what steps can you take to make sure it never happens again? Thinking about that is what truly protects your property for the long run.